our business, you're needed 24/7. If a client does call you and you don't answer, expect for that client to call the next person. If they answer, there's a big chance that you lose the business. Look where you can afford and buy what you can afford. And if you can get into the market and you can hold, you'll reap the rewards. You'd hate to wait 12 to 24 months and this market does move by 10 or 20%, you've missed out. I've never heard of anyone that says, I regret buying. Unless it's an off-the-plan apartment.
Now, your wife, Nikia, is an interior designer.
She is.
Which feels like a dream pairing, right, in the property world. You guys have bought and transformed homes together. What is that experience like, both personally and professionally, working with your wife?
And I think we're certainly due for another run. They call it a bull run, and I think that might be next year.
What advice do you have for those buyers trying to pick the right suburb? Are there any red flags that people should watch out for? What should buyers look for in a real estate agent or agency?
Good hairstyle, well-dressed.
Tattoos. Hey, welcome back to another episode of The Pod. I hope you're all having a fabulous week. I am so excited for today's episode because we are joined by Dylan Francis, Sales Director and Lead Auctioneer at WHITEFOX Real Estate Northside. Dylan is a respected and well-known agent who has been named in Herald Sun's Top 10 Agents Under 35 and the REB Top 50 Agents in Victoria, amongst many other accolades. We're going to dive into his real estate journey, Melbourne's competitive property market, and he'll be answering all the burning questions you guys have sent in around first home buyers. I am so excited, so let's get straight into this episode. Dylan, welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me.
We're so excited to have you here. I have so many questions to ask you because you're the first real estate agent, sales director, lead auctioneer to come on the show. But the first thing I do want to ask you, because I read that you were born and raised in Brunswick.
That is correct,
right?
Yes.
That is such an iconic part of Melbourne.
It is.
I mean, my dad grew up in Brunswick in the 70s and it was a very different area. Back then it was, primarily working class industrial, whereas now Brunswick is very much a hub in Melbourne for arts and culture. What was it like growing up in Brunswick?
It was very different back in the 90s and early 2000s, obviously playing local sport and going to school there. I think it's very multicultural, which I think that kind of has shaped me. I'm a very multicultural person. I'm Australian, background, but I think my immediate group of friends, which is 15 tight-knit friends, I think I'm the only Australian in the group. So I think
European?
European,
Yep.
Turkish, Lebanese, Italian, Greek. So it's quite a broad demographic there. But, growing up in Brunswick, it's the cafes, the amenities, the schools, it's the parks and, it was quite a good place to grow up in. And, I'm still kind of living in that area now and working in that area. So you can't take the boy out of the inner north, that's for sure.
Of course. And what's the market like in Brunswick now?
It's very demanding. I think it's one of the most searched suburbs on realestate.com. We're getting a lot of people moving into Brunswick for, the lifestyle, the livability, great cafes, great transport, great amenities, great schools now. I think I went to Brunswick Secondary College when I was younger, and back then it probably wasn't the greatest high school, but it's now zoned to be one of the best state schools, which has come a long way in the last 10 years. So we're seeing a big turnover of people buying and selling in Brunswick because it's a unique price point. Like sweet spot is maybe around $1 million, anything between $800K for first home buyers up until, $3 million. And usually in real estate, you have a 7-year changeover from buy and sell. I think Brunswick's between 2 and 4 years. So the constant turnover there is rapid.
Yeah. Now, how long have you been in real estate?
So just 8 years in August.
Right.
Yeah.
And you are known for selling some incredible homes in Melbourne. What is it about real estate that excites you the most? What gets you up every morning?
I think it's just my drive and energy. Like I'm up at 4:30 every morning. It's been like that for 10 years. So
that's early.
It's early and I've actually seen Dr. D at St. Haven with me of recent. So, when I'm up early, it's good to see that other people are too. But I think I don't look at it as if it's a job for me. I just look at it and think, okay, I'm connecting with people on a daily basis. I'm meeting new people, meeting new clients, and I'll wake up and go to work every day with not unsure about what I'm doing because I'm very rigid and structured, but it's something new every day. And it's helping people, it's connecting people and, arguably helping them achieve their dreams.
For sure. And how did you get into real estate? Because I read that you actually are a landscaper, right?
Yeah. So family business, yeah.
What was the journey into real estate like?
So out of school, we've got a family landscape gardening business and I worked in that until I was 24. Always had an interest for real estate. Went to Europe, did all the European holidays and South America, and I come back and said, look, love landscaping, love working outside, outdoors, tattoos, covered, all the general stuff that you do for a tradie. But there come a time where I wanted to kind of have a little bit more security and kind of determine my own life. And, family business is great, but there's always a cap, I feel, when you work in a family business on what you can achieve. And I've always wanted to become my own boss and do my own thing. So naturally led me to real estate through a mutual connection, a good friend of mine from school. Had an interview and I was lucky enough to join that company shortly after.
So you're working at Jellis Craig. Was that your first company that you worked
first
at?
company, yeah. So Jellis Craig was the first 6.5 years. So didn't chop and change. We did the hard yards there. We started as a cadet.
Yes,
which is
right at the
it's right at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's right at the bottom, and to people listening here today, it's not all the glitz and glam that people think it is. There's a lot of background work and time and effort to go into kind of building your pathway. So as a cadet to a sales agent to your own team and auctioneer, and then fast forward. Just over a year ago, we opened up WHITEFOX Northside.
So my question for you then is it like selling Sunset? Because I think a lot of people here are probably thinking that it's glitz and glam, you all come in your best attire for the day. What's it really like behind the scenes?
It's tough. Like if we break it down, I think to be in the top 1 or 2% is extremely hard, and there's only a handful of us people in that percentile. There's a lot of long hours. There's a lot of, it's not 9 to 5. I see my life as 5 to 9. So I'm up at 4:30 and I'm on the phone from that time, and I'm on the phone until we go to bed every night. So
are people answering calls at 4:30 in the morning?
Emails, texts, absolutely.
Oh,
yeah.
wow,
Between 4:30 and 5. If I miss them from the night before, I'm on in the morning.
On it.
Yeah.
Okay.
My phone's on airplane mode at 9 o'clock every night. You can't get me after that. Yeah.
And with that in mind, I guess, how do you then personally balance the demands of your job with maintaining your own well-being? I mean, you said that you obviously have a structured regime, but you do have a family as well.
I do. Got a beautiful wife, Nikia.
Balance?
So it's, I think it's something that I'm still learning and crafting and trying to get better at. And I've always had that goal of having a really good work-life balance. But it's, what is a work-life balance? If you really care about your work and you want to do extremely well, work has to come first in order to kind of build that empire. But, I train every day. It's 6 days a week. Sunday's family day, massage every Sunday, sauna, ice, all that kind of stuff that I need to, fresh haircut every Friday. So just making sure that we're getting everything right to look good, feel good. But, trying to be present when I do come home of a night, and, when I do spend time with family or the wife, make sure I'm, phones down, spending time and booking regular holidays, which I'm very good at. I try to head away every 10 to 12 weeks. I think it's important to break it up.
Do you find it hard to disconnect sometimes though?
Extremely. Yeah. But our business, you're needed 24/7. It's not one of those ones where you can just turn off your phone and, expect to pick it up the next day. With our business here, if a client does call you and you don't answer, expect for that client to call the next person. If they answer, there's a big chance that you lose the business. Yeah, so you've got to be quick. Yep.
Now, your wife, Nikia, is an interior designer.
She is.
Which feels like a dream pairing, right, in the property world. You guys have bought and transformed homes together. What is that experience like, both personally and professionally, working with your wife?
Professionally, it's fantastic. We do a lot of work together. So a lot of my own personal work, it's referred on to Nikia in our business. And I think from a work standpoint there, like vendors and clients really like it because I understand so much about interior design and styling and renovating and landscaping. I've got a very good eye, and I think having really good product knowledge with everything else outside of real estate helps you. But then when we go home, personally, it's like, okay, well, we come home, we talk about real estate, we talk about the style, we talk about the day. So unfortunately, it has consumed our lives, but it's something we both extremely enjoy and we love it.
Any challenges or funny moments working together?
I think the challenges is probably me. I think she hates me a lot when I ask her to get a job done in a certain time period because I've got marketing booked, right? Yeah. And I think I put a little bit too much pressure on her than she deserves. So I will get better at that. But she's amazing. We've got a great team under us and it's really fun. Yeah.
As the sales director at WHITEFOX Real Estate, you're obviously leading a team of one of the busiest property markets in Australia. How would your colleagues or your team describe your leadership style?
Fast-paced, energetic, caring. I think I'm doing quite well. Yeah, we've got a team of 13 now, so and that's rapidly growing as well, which is great.
What's the goal for it?
Well, the goal is to open up Office 2, which is only 3 weeks away. So to the listeners who know that Essendon is about to launch WHITEFOX. So that's 3 weeks away from completing our renovation. Our launch party's coming soon. So we'll go from Carlton to Essendon. And then Marty and I, my business partner, have Office 3 in the works, and it will probably be end of 2026, early 2027. So we've got the next 5 years planned out, which is super exciting.
Wow, it's exciting. Was there a defining moment for you during your career where you thought, yep, this is for me?
Probably year one.
Really?
And I don't want to talk numbers too much and financials, but I think I was the quickest person to move out of that cadet role ship into a standalone agent and to hit certain GCI components each year. I think I was the quickest person to go from $1 million to $2 million and above, which is unheard of. And I think from there I haven't really looked back. And I don't know, everyone says that I think real estate is your calling, and it just found me at the right time. And, you know, a year in I was performing extremely well, and year 2 and year 3 I grew my own team and became a partner and owner of the business, and we haven't looked back from there. Any
challenges that you faced early on, in the early times of your career?
Maybe the tattoos. They weren't received super well at the start, and I did have a big beard, so I had to chop that down. And
didn't get rid of the tattoos though?
No, I didn't. I said I've probably got a few more since then, but I think it's changed significantly over the last, I reckon, 24 to 36 months, and in particular since making a change to WHITEFOX. I think WHITEFOX's motto is about being yourself and raw and authentic, and it doesn't matter whether you've got tattoos or a beard, as long as you can sell great real estate and be an actual great human. I think it all kind of comes back around. I think the marketplace and, you know, the general feedback and how people perceive a real estate agent has certainly changed.
For sure. Now, Melbourne's property market is often described as one of the most competitive in Australia. What do you think makes it so competitive and dynamic?
I just think it's the livability, and, you know, we've got some of the greatest sporting events in the world. You know, we've got Spring Carnival coming soon. We've got Melbourne Cup. You've got Formula One. You've got, you know, rugby. You've got golf. You've got everything down here, and, you know, Australian Open throughout January. So, and I think that if you are looking to buy in Melbourne and you can get, you know, within close proximity of the CBD, you've just got everything at your doorstep. And it's such a dynamic state. Although the last 12 to 24 months, I think it's gotten a little bit worse, hence why a few people are moving into state. But, you know, we're born and bred here. I've been here for, you know, 30 years and been in this marketplace for 8, and it's very fast-paced and dynamic, which I love, and there's always something new.
Are there any particular suburbs or pockets of Melbourne that you're seeing huge growth in right now? Obviously, there's been a lot of change in the market. You know, we've had COVID, we've had interest rate rises, they've come back down.
Yep.
Where are those pockets now that are booming?
I think the outer suburbs are performing extremely well. It's just the affordability right now. Like, to get in a city where rates were 7%, we've had a few rate cuts of recent, which has certainly helped. But I think people are buying where they can afford and are renting where they want to be. The peninsula, I think there's some really good opportunities down there right now along the coast. I think that's come back close to 20% in the last 12 months. I've actually just sold a house there, so that wasn't great. But there's some really good pockets. But what I say to people, I say, look where you can afford, and buy what you can afford. And if you can get into the market and you can hold, you'll reap the rewards. Yeah.
Is that your advice or secret to kind of that successful property investment in Melbourne?
Yeah. It's I think if you can get in, it's the main thing. And, you know, if we look back 20 years from the Melbourne real estate market, it's year on year, or, you know, every 5 years we've seen significant increase. And I think we're certainly due for another run. They call it a bull run, and I think that might be next year.
Yeah.
I think we've seen the worst of it. We've got some really good buyer sentiment back in the marketplace. So I think it's exciting times for us Melburnians.
Yeah. You mentioned about renting. Now, there's obviously a rental crisis going on. We've seen low vacancy rates, soaring rents. How have you seen this influenced by behaviour and the types of properties that people are purchasing?
We've seen a lot of investors now selling their homes. I'm an investor myself, and I've sold a few properties of recent. It's just with all the new legislation and vacant land tax and, you know, other taxes that us investors have to face, it's now forcing us to sell homes, which actually takes away from investors, right? So it's super hard to get in and rent a property. And I think with some of the new legislation that they've brought in with, you know, 5% deposits, no LMI, reduced stamp duty, it's great from a selling point of view, but I really do feel for these investors and people getting into the marketplace, because I truly believe it's going to push the market the other way, and it's going to make it even harder for investors and renters to get in, because these prices are going to keep pushing up.
For sure. And speaking of first home buyers, we actually put a question box out on our Instagram because we had some listeners writing with questions, and a lot of them were first home buyers that wanted to pick your brain. First is on saving and budgeting. So someone said saving for a deposit is one of the biggest hurdles, especially when first home buyers are entering the market with less than 20%. Do you think it's smarter to wait and save a bigger deposit or get into the market sooner with a smaller one?
I'd certainly get in. Now that they've allowed you to get in with a 5% deposit and no LMI, sub 950, I'd be taking advantage of that. So you can get in with, maybe 50 grand versus $150,000. And I think if you can secure something, not necessarily a principal place, but somewhere that you can invest in and have a tenant, obviously service a mortgage, you'd hate to wait 12 to 24 months and this market does move by 10 or 20%, you've missed out.
For sure.
So if you can afford it and you can get in, I've never heard of anyone that says I regret buying. Unless it's an off-the-plan apartment.
How do you recommend buyers figure out a realistic budget? So balancing something that they can afford with the type of home that they actually want.
It's a tough question, right? Like, it's very hard to determine exactly what a home's worth in this marketplace. Unfortunately, the budget and the purchase price don't always work out. Like, I'm an agent. We strategically, market our homes to get our vendors the best possible price. But your budget, whether you've got 600 and the quote range is 6 to 660, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to fall within your budget. So I think it's just being very good with understanding product knowledge and recent sales. And I think if you can wrap your head around what things have sold for of recent, work it within your budget and what you're prepared to pay, you should be thereabouts.
Now, Melbourne has been a top location for first home buyers. We've seen areas like Dandenong, Brunswick, Coburg, as we spoke about, as the most searched. What advice do you have for those buyers trying to pick the right suburb?
I think you've got to look into the livability of the suburb, close proximity to cafe, transport and amenities, and new parks and what's happening in those suburbs as well. But I think it really comes down to, do you live there? Do you want to live there, or do you want to rent there? And I think it's extremely important to look at the rental yield if you are going to invest, just to make sure that the rental yield is extremely strong. And be very mindful whether you're buying, an established home, an apartment, a villa unit or a townhouse. With apartments, there's a lot of overheads and owners corporation fees and sinking funds and whatnot. So it's about doing a little bit more knowledge into those suburbs about what's happening in those core areas, and then making a decision whether you're renting there or you're actually going to be moving in.
And on finding the right property, are there any red flags that people should watch out for when considering a particular location or a particular type of property?
Well, the type of property, red flags are, why is a vendor selling so soon? Like, we see a lot of this at the moment where vendors have purchased over the last 12 or 24 months and they're back on the market. So A, that could be due to financial pressure and rates rising. B, it could be because council didn't allow a certain floor plan or property to be built or developed on. As a buyer looking to purchase a property, understand great product knowledge, get your contract reviewed, get a building inspection if you're unsure, make sure your finance is in check and ready to go. So there's a few points that you definitely want to stick to when buying if you're not familiar with the marketplace, just to ensure you've ticked all the boxes.
And when you're inspecting a property physically, what are some key things that first home buyers should look out for when they're doing that walkthrough?
First home buyers, depends on the price point. I think for your own livability, I think floor plan's extremely important. It does help. We go back to my wife being a stylist. When you style a home, it's very easy to see yourself living there. But if it's not styled and it's tenanted, making sure you understand the dimensions of the home, making sure your furniture will fit there. Bedrooms are a good space. Natural light is extremely important. But then just looking at other things around the home, the age of the home, whether there's any water ingress or leaks or, any damage to boards or any plumbing or whatnot. So it just really depends on what you're wanting out of that, whether it's a move-in straight away or a renovation project. But there's a few key things you can look for.
And what should buyers look for in a real estate agent or agency when starting out?
Good hairstyle, well-dressed.
Tattoos.
When starting out their search?
Yes.
I think just honesty and transparency is extremely important. Now, a lot of us agents and, the broader marketplace do have a bad name for themselves. And I think we're trying to get a little bit better at that. But I think, if you've got a good friend or a family member that have spoken to an agent or have bought or sold for an agent, it's always best to go back through them and have a mutual connection.
Yep.
It's very hard for new people that have never bought or sold to connect with someone that they don't know, and I'm sure they don't feel extremely comfortable in doing so. So do a little bit more background search, understand who they are a little bit more, maybe get digging a little bit more whether people know them or if they've bought or sold through them.
For sure. And what are some signs that an agent genuinely has your best interests at heart versus wanting to close a sale?
Typical agents, eh? Look, they will ask the right questions. They will ask whether they've bought and sold before, whether they're familiar with this marketplace, whether they're looking to invest, occupy, whether they know the rates, whether they know what's happening around them. And what I mean by that is if you're looking to buy in a specific suburb or complex and there's a development being built next door, there's a lot of agents that will not disclose that. I think it's very important to be upfront and, to show all your cards as an agent, because if you can connect with me from the first time you meet me as an agent, you're going to refer me business, and you're going to, whether you're buying or selling or a friend's buying or selling, you're going to, refer the business back. So I think it's extremely important to be trustworthy and knowledgeable and just be, supportive. It's a big decision in people's life when buying or selling, and whether it's a 400,000 or 4 million, I think you've got to treat that same person with the respect that they deserve, because it could be their biggest, time in their life. And, when buying a property, they've saved up all this money and they're looking to either, buy an investment or a property. So I think they deserve the respect. Doesn't matter the price point.
For sure. I definitely agree with you on that. What about auctions? Because you're obviously an auctioneer yourself. You do this all the time, right? But for other people at auctions, it can be really intimidating, right? Especially for first-time buyers.
Yep.
Any tips for first-time buyers to stay calm and to bid confidently?
Well, look, a lot of people at the moment are actually employing buyer advocates to bid on their behalf, which is great, but there is a fee that comes with that. But I think it's about 3 tips I would give is understand the property, make sure your finances are in check and you've done all the background checks, but turn up to auction with a budget, and how many times does someone turn up and exceed their expectations, and a bank might come through and value the home and they might value it for less than what you've bought it for, right? So I think understanding what you've got to spend on the day, but just be calm, be confident. You either start off the bidding and be strong, or you sit back and wait for others to put their hand up and get in amongst the competition. But it's not an easy one. And I've been to auctions before where I've had to buy myself, and even me, who's been in this game for 8 years, I get nervous all the time, even when buying or auctioneering. So there's no method to the craziness on auction day. It's just been about calm and keeping it out there and having a budget in mind. For sure.
What about during negotiations or private sales? What are some common traps or tactics that buyers should be aware of?
Private sales are tricky, because private sale, it's either a price that the agent has given the vendor, or it's a price that the vendor's given them. So either one's wrong, right? So you got to be careful and understand recent sales in that, because whether the property's worth $800 and the vendor's asking $999, you've got to know what this product is worth. So you've got to be very good with your recent sales, understand why it's a private sale. Are there issues in the complex? Is there a neighbour from hell that you shouldn't auction the property for? Hence why it's done privately and behind the scenes as well. So there's a few little tricks to the trade there on what you should ask when it is a private sale versus a public auction.
I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about lifestyle and personal branding in business. Obviously, you strike me as someone who's very confident. WHITEFOX itself, I think, as a business is a very distinct and bold brand. And we see more agents and more people, I think it doesn't matter what business you're in, building their personal brands on Instagram and TikTok and social media. How important is it for you, do you think, to have a personal brand or an online presence?
So up until probably 2 years ago, I thought, Instagram, just, another platform to show yourself off. But since joining WHITEFOX, obviously their motto is about being seen. And, our motto at WHITEFOX in our offices isn't about having market share, it's about having market presence. So we feel being able to collaborate, being able to use these platforms of TikTok and Instagram and Facebook extremely well. Everyone's tech savvy these days. They're online. And
doesn't matter how old you are.
No,
I've seen even
my mum and dad are on now. My dad's on, he's got a gardening page and he's showing his gardening off every day, which I love to see because he's trying to build up his followers. But everyone's online. And WHITEFOX are the number one company Australia-wide for eyeballs. So we have the most amount of, traffic on our platform, and, we pride ourselves on running that marketplace. And, our pitch to vendors when we're meeting them daily is that print media is gone.
Yeah.
It's online. It's realestate.com domain, it's social media, it's video content, it's being raw and authentic and putting yourself out there. And what I love about what I do and our team and our company do is there's no personal page and real estate page, it's one page.
Sure.
You want to know what Dylan does from the gym in the morning, what his wife does, what he eats, his dogs, his house, but also his work. And I think if you can get a little bit behind the scenes of each individual, doesn't matter their job or their profession, I think it's a little bit more warming and welcoming, and I think you can appreciate that person a little bit more.
For sure. And what role do you think that content like videos, for example, plays specifically now in selling property? Because I know even for myself, if I'm looking for a place, the first thing I would usually check, apart from realestate.com, is jump on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
And I love seeing like walkthrough videos of the properties because I feel like it gives you a more kind of realistic sort of personable
But it
touch.
does, and
what
it
do
gives you a
think?
detailed look. So video content is huge at the moment. It's what we pride ourselves on. So we're more about video content than photo content, right? So I think how we play that is if I'm listing your home for sale, we do a really cool narrated video. So we talk about the home in full detail. So by the time a prospective buyer walks through, they've watched the video, they know me, they know everything about the home. And before they walk in the door, they know what they're getting into. And I think they've already sent that video to friends and family, and they're letting them know that they're going to see that home versus just a real estate listing. So I think it's quite personable. And it's a massive marketing point of difference that WHITEFOX do really well.
I think any business nowadays has to have a social media presence, right? Otherwise
Absolutely.
you're just behind the eight ball because you know your competitors.
I don't do TikTok though, so I'm going to have to get on that.
Come on. Maybe we'll get you to do a bit of a TikTok dance later. Dylan, we have a closing tradition on the podcast where every guest has to do a round of rapid fire Q&A.
Okay.
So I've got 10 questions for you.
Go.
Are you ready? Question 1, brunch or a slow morning on the weekend?
Brunch.
If you could jump on a plane tomorrow, where would you go?
Mykonos.
Which celebrity would you love to grab dinner or drinks with?
Come back.
Come back, okay. Something most people would never guess about you.
Not much.
Not much?
No,
Pretty open
I'm
book?
pretty out there.
What's your go-to binge watch?
Don't watch TV.
At all?
No.
Not even like Netflix or Disney Plus or anything?
No, I don't.
God, too busy for that.
Yeah,
Podcast,
yeah.
yes. What's your favourite sporting team or athlete?
North Melbourne.
North Melbourne, okay.
Not great.
What's one food you absolutely cannot stand?
Don't love tomato.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a weird one.
I know.
Tomatoes nearly in everything though.
Yeah,
no?
no, I don't love it.
Okay.
Getting better after Italy last year though.
I was going to say, yeah.
So good there.
To be fair though, the tomatoes in Europe are different though. You can't even compare. What's your go-to Melbourne restaurant for date night?
Love Gimlet.
Oh yeah,
Went to
Gimlet's
Mason
great.
Batard last night.
Yep.
Local in Brunswick is Etta. Fantastic in
Nice.
Brunswick East. Yeah.
What's the food like there, like cuisine?
Yeah, modern Australian.
Nice.
Beautiful food.
I'm going to go back to which celebrity would you love to grab dinner or drinks with?
It's a tough one.
Come on, there's got to be someone.
Dr. D.
All right, Dr. D
Dr.
it is.
D it is.
We can organise that, I'm sure. And the last question, if you could be remembered for one thing beyond your career, what would you want it to be?
Just my leadership and the way I care for people and bring them along the journey.
I love that. Dylan, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
you.
It's been such an informative and educational episode. I think, having people like you that come with such great knowledge and energy as well, it's really important. And I know I took a lot from this episode, so I'm sure our listeners will as well. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Episodes will be released every Thursday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at Smile the Makeover Scoop. As always, please send in any questions you guys have, guests that you want to see, and don't forget to leave a review as well. It only takes 30 seconds. Catch you guys next week.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice. Please consult with a professional for specific advice tailored to your situation.